Hello, this is Danny from the DM Art Classes and welcome back to another tutorial in Nomad Sculpt. In this tutorial we will be making this bucket. It will involve sculpting, modeling and texture painting. This tutorial is intended for people that have already completed the Beginner's Guide Part 1 to 6. If you have not, please go to the playlist and do that first. First we will start by going into the scene menu here and adding a primitive. We will start with the cylinder so we can build the base of the bucket. So once we've got the cylinder in place, we can then use the gizmo, snap to view shortcut on the bottom, just to lock it into place, and then use the gizmo there to shrink it. We're going to start thinking about adding the first plank, which will go on the outside of the bucket. Go into the primitives, add a cube. Use the gizmo tool again to scale it down on each side. Move it into place. Try and put this at a little bit of an angle so the bucket sort of comes out. Now is a good opportunity to go into the camera menu, switch to orthographic so it's a flat view with no perspective. And in here we can go to the gizmo tool and rotate. Adjust the thickness. First plank in place. I want to start thinking about how I can make this look a little bit more like wood and, chop a few bits off to make some imperfections. Trim tool here. Use the line and just cut away a little edges here and there. I'm going to go in and do a voxel remesh. I can have a higher resolution to add more details. And at this time on the second screen have different references of wood up, looking at different grains. Always use reference when you're doing different things like this. Never just try to guess it from your imagination, because majority of the time you will get it wrong, unless you have photographic memory, but that is very rare. Decided that some of these edges were a little bit too sharp. Went in with the smooth tool and started smoothing out some of these edges. Back to the crease brush to start adding in some of the wood grain details. Shading menu into the environment BPR to adjust the rotation of the HDRI. You can get some of that light hitting the edges of where the creases are. Also, don't forget, always save your files. This is a habit. Try to do it whenever you think about it. Just save your file. You can't lose nothing by saving your files. You never know if something will crash. For example, working in ZBrush or on Blender, occasionally the software will just crash. So always it's a good habit. Save all the time. Just keep on top of that. There is an auto save option in Nomad Sculpt. I recommend using it. It's very, very important. There is one other thing I would like to say about saving your files. This can happen to anybody. It's happened to me before in Blender and ZBrush, where I've had one save and I was saving over and over and over on the same file, and it became corrupt and all of that file became lost. So now I find it good practice to make sure you keep saving in multiple different files. So if one does become corrupt, you'll always have another one to fall back on. Move on to the base of the bucket, smooth around the edges using the smooth brush. Go back in with the crease brush and start adding some more wood grain detail. And again, always looking at reference while doing this. Take this first plank, go to the paint option in the bottom, choose a matte material, keep the roughness high, the metallic on low, and then press paint all. Choose a darker color to fill it with, and then apply a lighter color for the details on top. Also, throughout this process, I'm always going back in and using the color picker tool to pick different colors here and there. Now, once at this stage, started using layers for the detail on top. Ideally, it can be a good practice to start doing the layers from the beginning. You can, for example, put your base color on in one layer, add another layer where you can have your mid values, another layer for your higher tone values, and one for your darker values. This will give you complete control. So if you decide that one has been put on too heavy, you can tone it back a lot easier, and you can also do this with sculpt details. Have that first plank painted and ready, then go into my scene menu and start duplicating it. Rotate it, twist it around just to add some variation so they don't just look straight like copies. Later on as well, go in and do a couple more alterations to each one of the planks so they don't look too similar. Back in the scene menu, I've got 3 planks. Use the gizmo tool to rotate and put into place. Some of them twisted all the way around, and then other ones flipped, so the grains look different on each of them. Orthographic view is a lot easier when you're using transform tools and gizmo tools. Going to go into the base and follow a similar process. Also as well, make sure you save your file all the time. Gone also into the post-process menu and switched on the ambient occlusion so I can see some nice shadows. Filled the base with a standard color, the same with the planks. Added a layer, chose a lighter color, and then paint the grain. And then followed, it's exactly the same process as what I would do on the planks. Hit the edges with a lighter color. Voxel remesh. Mesh was quite a low resolution, so if you remember, if you want to have nice details in with your painting or with your sculpting, you need to have a higher resolution mesh. Gone in and used the mirror menu. I can mirror the details what I've painted onto the bottom onto the top just to save time. As this is a part of the model, nobody will even really be looking at. Decided it's still good practice to paint the base. Pulled up all of the planks again and go ahead and use a simple merge. Duplicate them back into orthographic view, into the mirror menu, and mirror across. When I use the mirror menu, it mirrored them into the same subtool. So what I've gone in is then used the split to split them off, duplicate it again to add it onto the side of the bucket. Trying to move them around to find the right positions where they can look good. Using the transform gizmo tool, and again into the mirror menu, mirror it across, use the transform tool for the base of the bucket. And then what you'll do is tweak the details until you have everything in place of when you're happy. At this stage, I went in with my move brush and started adding in a few extra details and tweaking different things with the gizmo tool and move brush at the same time. And that is it for part 1 of this tutorial. Part 2 will be coming out very soon. Please feel free to like and subscribe. If you did struggle with any of the terms in this video, for example, layers, transform tools, gizmos, and things like this, please do the beginner's guide part 1 to 6 before attempting this tutorial, as you will struggle a little bit. I presume that most of the people subscribed to this channel have already done that, so I hope everything was okay for you, and I will see you next time. Thank you. Goodbye.